Hi everyone, today we're starting a new unit. This is the start of Unit 4. This will be the last unit that you guys will be doing for the remainder of the school year. So today is day 1, and we're doing some introduction into parent functions. This might be a little bit of a review for you guys. I know you guys have seen you've seen some of these functions. Some of these might be new to you, but all in all, we're gonna make sure that you guys have a better understanding after today. So the goal of today is that we're going to be able to fill in the tables for all 6 parent functions. There's going to be 6 that you guys are going to be referring back to this whole unit. And then you're going to be able to graph all 6 parent functions. So as we move on to our warm-up here for part 1, or number 1, it's just asking for us. Oh, also, by the way, I was trying to figure out, I don't know if you guys remember, but my pen was having some technical difficulties in the last couple of videos, and I think I figured it out. I think it's so far so good, fingers crossed. But so for number 1, we're solving. Remember what these bars mean? Those bars on the outside of the 4, that means absolute value. And absolute value is that distance from 0. So this is that review. So absolute value is distance from 0. And so that's how you know it's always going to be positive, because a distance is always positive. So what is the absolute value of 4? Well, if you know how far away 4 is from 0, if I were to draw out a little number line here, go little, let's go 0, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if we're going distance from 0, if we got 4, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So the absolute value of 4 is just 4, because remember, it's always positive. Now for number 2, it's asking for the absolute value of -4. Again, this might be some review for you guys, but it might be beneficial. So remember, distance from 0. Now, if I were to do a number line, go 0, -1, -2, -3, -4. Now that distance from -4 to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. There's still 4. It's still a distance of 4. It's not just because it says -4 here. Remember, it's always an absolute value is always positive. So now that we answered those first 2 questions, now we're going to look at this table here and graph them. And so it's given, in this table, we're given ordered pairs. So we have our x here in this column. So these values are our x's. And then here we have f of x. That's just another way of saying that's the same thing as y. So these are our y values in our ordered pair. So if I were to rewrite this out as an ordered pair, we'd have -2, -2. And then -1, -1. So remember how I'm writing, so if we have 0 here as our x, we're going to put that here because x comes first, and then y, so 0 again. And I'm just going to keep doing that all the way down. I have 2, 2. Now that we have rewritten out those ordered pairs, you don't have to do this step. I'm just doing this step as a little added bonus. So now I'm going to graph these points. So if we have -2, -2, remember you go x first. So we're going to go -2 in the x direction, so 1, 2, and then -2, so down 2 in the y direction, so 1, 2. So that's point -2, -2. Now I'm going to just put a little black dot symbolizing that that's that one. I'm going to do red. So now we have -1, comma, -1. It's going to be close to it. So if we have -1 in the x, -1 in the y, that's going to go right here. I'm going to do green for this point here. 0, 0, that is also referred to as the origin. That's that center where your x and y planes cross. It's where your axes cross. Now we have this blue one, which is 1, 1. Oh, it's supposed to be blue. Blue, which is 1 in the x direction, positive, because you'll write going positive and up. So +1, +1. And last but not least, we have the point 2, comma 2. So that's going to be 2 to the right and 2 up. And now I'm going to draw a line connecting or having the go through both points. Or all the points. So I'm going to draw a line connecting all of them. And there you go. And that's kind of what, this is a good representation of what we'll be doing today. We're going to be having values in our table and plotting them. So this is a parent function. This particular one represents y equals x, or f of x equals x. That's the same thing. So now we'll go on. So now for the function, we're going to be plugging in the following values for x and solving for f of x. Remember, f of x, same thing, meaning y. So we have our values here, and it's asking us to plug in. We have our function here where it's f of x equals 2x, which is the same thing as saying y equals 2x. So since it's giving us these x values here, we're going to plug in those values in for x to see what we get as our f of x value or our y value. So over here, we have f of negative 2. So this is basically saying when x is negative 2, we're going to find out what our y is. So we're going to plug in. Here's the first part of the function. So we have 2. I'm just going to rewrite that as 2x because that's our function. So now I'm going to plug in. In place of that x, I'm going to plug in that negative 2. And now we're going to solve what negative 2 times negative 2 is. And that's negative 4. Remember, because a positive times a negative is a negative. Now we have f of negative 1. Oh, I'm going to do the same exact thing. So we're going to have 2, because remember that's our original function is 2x. So I'm going to fill in negative 1. And that's equal to negative 2. And f of 0, again, it's going to be very repetitive. It's going to be that same process, but we're just plugging in different values for that x value. And 2 times 0, remember anything times 0, 0. So that's just 0. 2, 1, 2, 2, 4. So now we have our x values. So now we're going to fill in this table. We're going to use these values to fill in our table. So our x values we are given up here. I'm just going to fill in negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2. Now for our corresponding, remember this is important that you fill in where this negative 4 is going to match up with that negative 2. It's important that you don't accidentally put it in the negative 1 spot, because that's, if you were to plug in negative 1 into the equation, your y value is not negative 4. Your y value is actually going to be, in turn, we found out it was negative 2. So negative 2 there. And I'll just keep going. So you have 0, 0, you have 2. And last but not least, when we plug in 2 for the function, we get positive 4. So there was just some practice with filling in the table, which is what you guys will be doing in your homework and for the rest of today's lesson. Okay, so now we're doing that same thing, and it's given us these values here, our x values to plug in for our function up here, our equation. So if we plug in negative 1 in for x, so then we'd have square root negative 1. And before you say that the answer is 1, remember you cannot take that rule about square roots is that you cannot take the square root of a negative number. So you would just write undefined. I'm just going to do UND for undefined. So that does not exist. But you can do, if you plug in 0 for x, you can take the square root of 0, and that's just 0. Now we'll do square root of 4, because remember, I'm taking that function up here, I'm plugging 4, because that's what it's the x is asking us to plug in. Square root of 4 is 2. And now square root of 9 is 3. And square root of 16 is 4. And now that we have the values, we have values of 0 and 0, 4, 2, 9, 3, 16, and 4. Now I'm going to plot these over here. So first we have that 0, 0, because we can kind of skip this because that won't even be on the, because it's undefined. It's not defined, so you cannot put it on your graph. So we have 0, 0, otherwise known as the origin. We have 4 in the x direction, 2 in the y direction, so 1, 2, 3, 4, up 2. We have 9, 3, sorry. So that was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then up 3. And unfortunately, it doesn't extend far enough for the 16, but I'm just gonna, it would be farther out this direction. Now, last but not least, you draw your connecting your points. And this is the parent function. This is one of your parent functions. Remember how before on the warm-up we had the parent function y equals x? This y equals square root of x is another parent function. Remember there's going to be 6. So here's another one. And then we're going to get one more practice before you guys go on to your homework. So now again we're doing that same process where we're completing the table, plotting the points, and we're drawing a line connecting the points. So here's our function here. Remember these bars? Meaning absolute value. So now that we have that, now we're going to plug in these values here. So we're plugging in, so we have absolute value of 2 times negative 2. And 2 times negative 2 is negative 4. And the absolute value of negative 4, remember it's distant from 0, so it's always positive, so it's just 4. So now we have absolute value of 2 times negative 1. And that would just be the absolute value of negative 2, which in turn is just 2, because remember it's always positive. An absolute value of 2 times 0. 2 times 0 is 0. Absolute value of 0, 0. Now we have absolute value of 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Absolute value of 2 is 2. Now last but not least, we have the absolute value 2 times 2, which is positive 4 because it's always positive, and 2 times 2 is 4. An absolute value of 4 is 4. Okay, so now we have these values. We have negative 2 goes with 4, negative 1 goes with 2, 0 to 0, 1 with 2, and 2 to 4. So now I'm going to graph these. So if we have negative 2 in the x direction, so it goes left because it's negative, and up 4. So 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have negative 1, positive 2, negative 1, and towards, so we're going left, up 2, 0.00, otherwise known as the origin. And then we have 1 to the right, because right, if you're going right, that's positive, up 2. And then 2, 4. Now we're going to draw, connecting our points, a line. This kind of looks like a V. So absolute value signs, I think absolute, the way I kind of like to remember it is absolute value. Value, think value. Because it's absolute value, think that value, so it's going to be like a V shape. That's kind of a way I like to remember it, like little tips. So yeah, so your homework is going to be completing the remaining 3. I think so far we've done 3. So there's 3 more parent functions that you guys will be introduced to in your homework, but you're doing that same process where you're plugging in values in for x, getting your x and y coordinates or ordered pairs, and then you're plotting them and you're connecting those lines to see what shape it makes. And remember that this will be kind of a basis of what we will be doing the rest of the school year. This is that introduction to it. So remember to complete the daily attendance form and do the note quiz. And homework quiz, I forgot to add that part on here, but homework quiz. So not note quiz, homework quiz. Because now we're doing the video and the homework in the same day. So remember to feel free to ask me questions, email